Hey there, Safia here from New Habits. It's such a glorious day in Johannesburg, and especially on the back of the gloomy day we had yesterday. I thought I'd come and work outside for a bit, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I hope that this video is going to pick up some of the bird sounds around me. It's just absolutely so indulgent. Um, on the back of the video that I did yesterday, where I spoke about self love and about self love being this relationship that we are in with ourselves, this relationship that is the equivalent of sanctuary for ourselves, where we can be whole and complete and comfortable, and where we can be in a healthy relationship with ourselves. I thought it would be useful to explore what self love is not today. And for me, one of the things that I very often see being confused with self love is this concept of self care. Now, don't get me wrong, I love self care and I would advocate self care to anyone. It is just that there is a way in which we can use self care to escape from practicing self love. I love self care in all its versions, in all the different parts of our lives. Whether it's a pamper session, whether we're talking about good, healthy nutrition, wholesome nutrition, whether we're talking about getting our bodies moving, or whether we're talking about those indulgences where we're just napping and spacing out in front of the TV. I'm into all of that. I think it's necessary, and I think that that is a vital part of self love. There is, however, a context in which self care can be unhealthy. So I think back to a time when I was in my early to mid 20s. I was working like crazy. I had multiple jobs. I was going to university. I was working approximately 360 to 362 days a year. And this was going on for 3, 4 years. And I just had no chill. And I had gotten to a point where I was doing well at varsity, and I'd gotten to a point where I was able to manage with less work. I was able to meet all my obligations. I was able to contribute meaningfully to our household with less work. But I kept working and I kept grabbing more and more and more hours in spite of this. Now, the reason why I was grabbing more and more hours was because I was also getting to a point in my life where I started to stage my identity. I started to reflect or show up as a reflection of what I thought good or successful living looked like. So, yes, I was working myself to smithereens so that I could look a particular way, so that I could have particular things and I could show up at particular places. And at that time, what started to happen was that I started to get sores. My body was letting me know that it is time to slow down, it is time to chill out a bit more. What is so important also is that one of the things that I was doing a lot, I was aware of the fact that I was tired, but one of the things that I was doing a lot was I was doing things that we would now typically describe as self-care activities. I was getting pampered. I was going for massages. I was going for these little interludes where I could treat myself. I was going to gym. I was eating decent food most of the time. Sometimes. But the point is that I was practicing self care. If you were to look on paper, I was practicing self care. I had standing appointments with masseuses and beauticians and all these kinds of things, and I thought I was living the life. But here's what was happening. My body was tired, and my body was speaking to me. It was communicating with me, and I was disregarding it. I was chasing something at the expense of something, my well being. So when we're doing self care at the expense of what is more important in our lives, then that is a way in which we are using it to, it's a subterfuge, to sabotage our self love. Now, My body started to speak quietly. I was just tired and fatigued, and my anemia was kicking in. And then I started to get boils. And then my boils progressed to carbuncles. And still, I kept going. I kept going. And I kept going harder and harder and harder because I also wanted to do well at university. So I kept going harder until one day I couldn't get up. My body just wouldn't function, and I ended up in hospital. And that was one of my very early burnout experiences. It is just so important that at that point in my life, what self love would have looked like would be to stop and to ask myself what my priorities are. What is more important? Who am I doing this for? What am I trying to accomplish? What does success mean for me? What does living in alignment with what is important to me look like? At that point in my life, it was probably more important to spend the time on discovering what was important to me. That is what self love would look like. Instead, I was outsourcing my values. I was outsourcing what is important. I was outsourcing my priorities. And I was using self care as a plaster for a wound that actually needed a deep cleaning. So I hope that this is making sense to you in some way or the other, and that you can see how, from my example, that self-love and self-care can live together, but self-care can be used as a way to undermine your relationship with yourself and can be used to escape yourself and what is needed and necessary for yourself. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. And as always, if you have comments, please share them. Bye for now.